everybody, welcome to this video with myself and Mr. Alistair Penman. And we are holding in our hands, wow, beautiful, two Selmer Signature, brand new alto saxophones, tenor and the alto obviously. Alistair's with us to talk about these new Selmer saxophones because it's not very often, is it, Alistair, that Selmer bring out a new sax, having just recorded one the last few months for the Supreme?
No, it's, we're being spoilt at the moment. We've had the Supreme and the Signature, and it doesn't feel that long since the Sellers either, the Axos.
No, and we're going to do a separate video very soon looking at the whole range. But today we're just looking at these new Signature altos and tenors. And obviously we've got Alistair because we wanted to look at it from a sort of more classical, contemporary playing. We've done separate videos with a couple of our jazz artists, the Simons, which should be out now as well. So we're going to talk about the spec, and we're going to get Alistair's feelings, obviously, as someone who uses Selmers and how these compare to the other Selmers in the range. But Alistair, if you don't mind, would you give us a good blow on the alto so we can have a hear of it, and then we'll have a chat about the design features. Very nice. Well, I think before I bore everyone with some of the technical things that they've done, although they may be relevant to what you're going to say about how you feel about it, what's your first impressions coming in today, playing it, knowing the ranges you do? How do you feel this sits?
Yeah, I mean, it's first off, it's a really nice sax. Who'd have thought it? Selmer making a brilliant saxophone. But it's got all the kind of, I mean, I normally play on a Series 2 as the alto that I've been playing on for years and years. And this, in a way, feels very similar. It's got a lot of kind of the Selmer character to it. I think probably the biggest difference I feel between this and my Series 2 is this feels quite focused. And I would say it's easier to control. It's more, possibly a little bit more direct. It speaks kind of very evenly across the whole range as well. So it's probably a bit easier to play actually, which is probably what you'd expect from an updated sax. But yeah, overall very, very nice sound, very easy to play.
Well, it's interesting because obviously, well, not obviously at all, the Signature is essentially based on, or the next step on from the Series 2 on the alto. On the tenor, it's the Series 3, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. So they essentially have started with kind of the DNA of the Series 2, but brought some things from the Supreme as well. As you know, the tightening ring here is on this nickel silver band which moves, so you can reposition that. And inside there, there's a 3-point concentric sort of gripping mechanism that holds this all together. Essentially, it's about adding weight and strength up here. But the very interesting bit they do mention as well is that they've modified the neck internals compared to the old Series 2. And from us having a chat about this before and listening and doing quite a lot of testing with a Series 2, that's going to be another video, we feel, or my guess, I'll say this, my guess is that they've actually narrowed the taper slightly in this neck on the alto to get that centered sort of feel to it, because instead of it feeling a little bit spread, which maybe the Series 2 does, like you say, it keeps that character, you know, not constrained is quite the wrong word, isn't it? But controlled, perhaps.
Yeah, I think particularly at the bottom end of the register, it makes a real difference. Kind of going down to the bottom, this feels very controlled, whereas perhaps on my Series 2, that's an area I have to work on a little bit to keep it under control. On this, it definitely feels easier, kind of more, I was going to say restrained, perhaps that isn't the right word, but it's more focused and easier to get that low register. It just speaks really cleanly down there.
The other thing you noted as well, actually, when we were testing was the intonation on the left-hand especially in the upper register.
Yeah,
the A's that were filling?
definitely. So again, all saxes have their quirks, so it might just be mine. But on my Series 2, I had to adjust for the A in the upper octave. It tends to go a bit on the sharp side, whereas on this it's kind of bang in tune. Also, the octave C sharps tend to be a kind of problem point on a lot of saxes. This one, I wouldn't say it's 100% perfect. I don't think I've ever tried a sax that has been, but it's a lot more in tune than a lot of saxes I've tried. Certainly more in tune than my Series 2, and it's pretty close. And I mean, part of that goes to the fact I've been playing my Series 2 for so long. I'm so used to adjusting. You never know if you've not played. If you're used to playing a sax that's perfectly in tune and you come and play this, you'll probably find it is perfectly in tune. It's certainly a lot easier and a lot closer.
I think you're right in saying it's kind of impossible. There's always adjustment has to go on with the ear and the mouth. But I think relative to what they said as well about this modification, they didn't specify what. I'm guessing, by the way, it's what I'm saying. But that modification has tidied up a little bit of that tuning on that left hand, and that feeling of ease at the bottom, the controllability, especially of speaking those low notes, would make sense then to a slightly narrower taper in the neck. Yeah. That's what we've seen on other models. It gives those results. So that's my speculation. Now, if we talk about the tenor, that's a bit of a different vibe because this is based on the Series 3, and they've actually enlarged this area of the neck to body diameter. So that's a larger volume here compared to the Series 3. But just like the Alto, it has the nickel silver ring, which is adjustable, the same mechanism to attach. The other thing someone want to point out is some of the Teflon coating on the octave mechanism, which makes it nice and smooth and also very durable in terms of long lasting. Both these obviously have premium leather pads and also metal resonators on these, which give a little bit of extra brilliance on the pads, and the beautiful sort of Art Deco style engraving, which we really like.
You mentioned that. Definitely my favourite engraving I've seen on a sax. It's amazing.
So there's elements of from the factory luthiers, shaping, fire, plus Art Deco. It's all very cool. We really like it. But what we're going to do, we're going to have a quick change around, and we're going to hear Alistair on the tenor, and we'll get his thoughts about that as well. Very nice. So, as we mentioned, this is based on or inspired by the Series 3 platform, different Series 2 on the Alto, Series 3 on the tenor. As I say, they've modified this area around where the neck enters into the tube. Otherwise, the spec is very similar to what we've already discussed. So, Alistair, thoughts compared to, well, firstly, thoughts about this as an instrument?
Very, very nice. I think this is one of the nicest tenors I've played. In fact, it's a gorgeous instrument. I think the thing about it is it makes a really nice sound, and it's really even across the whole range. So the classical playing is kind of perfect. It's that really beautiful, smooth sound. We were talking earlier, we were trying out all sorts of things to compare all these new saxes earlier. So my tenor that I play normally is a reference 36, which is another brilliant instrument from Selmer. And it's quite interesting the difference between that and this. So this signature feels much more even across the range, I would say, and it's particularly noticeable in the lower register. Again, like the Alto, this has got a brilliant low register. It just speaks without any effort. And whereas my reference, it's almost like the top register has a slightly different character in the sound to the lower register. The lower register is a bit kind of more wider, whereas on this it's kind of much more focused. It's not to say one is better or worse necessarily, it's just different, but this certainly is very easy to play, and I think makes a really nice sound across the whole range. So kind of the classical playing works really, really nicely.
Yeah, cool. And I think what's interesting is we have done a couple of different videos with different players who are more on the sort of jazz commercial end of things. And obviously, Alistair, as we've said, we're talking more classically here. I get the feeling these signatures are genuinely equally at home in all environments and give everyone everything that they might need, and that controllability, that evenness of sound. Now, the flip of that maybe is the characteristics of some instruments you might be used to. You like the fact that the top is slightly brighter and the bottom spreads. You know, that's the personal choice, of course. But I think even though they've come at this from two different design angles, they've managed to get that consistency across the alto and the tenor. I think that's the main thing. So we're going to do some other videos in the coming weeks comparing the Signature within the Selmer range and talking about how it works, say, versus the Axos, which is now the entry level. Then you have the Signature, then you have the Supreme at the very top end of things. So we're going to do some of those comparisons on alto and tenor, with Alistair on the classical side and with Simon on the jazz side of things. And also we'll start to compare these against other brands and see how they kind of line up. But I think just as a final parting thought, Alistair, would it be fair to say that this, because they're not cheap, let's just spit it out, they are expensive. We're at sort of a, I never say the price on the videos because if you watch this in a year, it'll be different to what it is now, but we're into the 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 English pounds mark between the alto and the tenors and the various finishes that are available. Do you think they're worthy of being up at that price point compared to the competition now?
Yeah,
and what's out there?
I mean, they're certainly the tenor, I would say, is one of the nicest saxes I've played, and it's the sort of people that are going to buy these are people who are serious players, and at which point you're going to go for the sax that is the best sax, that the sax is what you like, and I think these are both brilliant choices. I mean, they both play really nicely. We're having a discussion earlier because I'd played on my Series 2 for such a long time that everything just, I love that Series 2 and I always come back to it. But if I didn't have that instrument and I was looking through a new sax, I would be trying these Selmers and I'd be picking between them, and on the ones I've played, to be honest, these Signatures are almost certainly the ones I'd go for. They're, yeah, brilliant sounding saxes, and I think, yeah, they are, Selmer can justify the price because they are that good.
Yeah, cool. Well, excellent. Well, thank you very much for watching. Do stay subscribed to the channel. If you haven't already, just click the subscribe button down there. And as I say, we're going to have a number of videos coming out in the coming weeks and months, checking out these Selmers. Because it's a big deal, they don't bring out new models that often. I know there's been a few recently, but this standardizing of the line to Axos, Signature and Supreme is going to be their focus for the next decade or two, at least. So it's a serious bit of kit. Would you be so kind, Alistair, as to give us a little bit of playing out? Thank you.